from ESPN. Not only is he one of the best analysts, but I do believe he wrote the little jingle that was played every single time a draft choice was being announced last night during the broadcast to Jay Bilas. Is that a true story, Jay?
It's not, but it's good by me. And let me join in to say happy birthday,
Thank you,
Rich.
Jay.
And I couldn't be more impressed. You're like the new Bobby Brady now, getting Joe Namath to like show up whenever you feel like it.
And I do tell my kids don't play ball in the house though, too, Jay. I tell them that all the time. That's
awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for the well wishes, and truly thank you for calling in today after such a busy, long night. What do you tell Celtic fans today? Because I'm always of the mindset of pump the brakes. You never know with a draft. It takes a very long time for a draft to come out in the wash. But Celtics fans today are really all over Danny Ainge and really concerned about it. What do you say to them this morning, Jay?
Yeah, I would say relax a little bit because, one, Danny's really smart, and he's got a bunch of smart people working for him, and they make really good decisions. And Brad Stevens is incredibly smart, too. So they had 8 picks last night, and you're not going to bring in 8 new guys. That's just not going to happen. So the funny part is the trade market right now is kind of odd because of the salary cap going up because of the new TV deal. So when it used to be you're trying to get rid of high-priced veterans, it may be a scenario now where you feel like you have to keep them. Just because you've got to use up all this cap space. It's going up to like $94 million next year, and I think the floor, the least you can pay is like in the $85 million range, and then it's going to go up after that. So, a lot of NBA players kind of joke around that, hey, man, they're giving it away, and now they're really giving it away. And so keeping veterans that have a higher price tag, which used to be a huge no-no, you try to unload salary cap space. Really, you're not giving it away you're not giving players away like you used to.
And I just find it fascinating to me, Jay, that you hear so much hand-wringing during the college basketball season, and certainly when it's all over and you hear the number of players that are declaring to go into the NBA draft, so much hand-wringing over the one-and-dones, two-and-dones, that kids don't stick around anymore. What's the NBA going to do about it? And then draft night comes, and the average age of a first-round draft choice is 19.8 years of age. What gives?
Well, I think they're just trying to, all these talent evaluators, scouts, GMs are trying to find who the best players are going to be long term. And, when you have Buddy Hield and Denzel Valentine, who seem like they've been in college forever, even though it's only 4 years, they know what they're getting. It doesn't mean they can't get better. But when you have, if you could have gotten Grant Hill when he was a freshman, Grant Hill was a lot like Ben Simmons in a way. He had an incredible amount of skill and talent, but he couldn't shoot. And later on, he became a really good shooter. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden he was Steph Curry. I'm not suggesting he was that kind of shooter. But Grant Hill could shoot later on in his career. And so you're looking at Ben Simmons that way, saying, what can he be? Look how good he is now. What can he be? And you're not doing that with some of the older players. You pretty much know what they can be. That doesn't mean they can't get better, but you know where they are. And that's basically what it's all about. And, kind of the one-and-done thing, Rich, look, players have always been able to leave after 1 year. I don't know why we're so worried about this. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that many players. The problem we've got, and this is where I think the NCAA is totally screwing this up. The NCAA should start acting in its own interest and quit waiting for the NBA to put up barriers that are going to keep players in the pen longer for us to exploit. What we should do in college is say, look, go ahead and declare for the draft. And if you don't like where you're drafted, come back. As long as you don't sign a professional contract, you are eligible to come back. And if your team and your school wants you back, you are eligible to come back. And we should also be thinking about, while the NBA is drafting foreign players and parking them over in Europe, why aren't we making it available for the NBA to park them in college? And say they want to draft a young player and say, you know what, instead of the D-League, you want to go to college? We'll park you in college. We'll let you be coached by Lon Kruger or whatever, and then we'll bring you up after your junior year's over. We got to start thinking like that as to what's in the best interest of the college game.
So why doesn't something like that happen? That makes so much sense, Jay.
I think we're still kind of provincial in our thinking that it's black and white. If you don't want to be in school, it's kind of like, and this is not a shot at Mark Emmert, but it's just because he's the president. So they'll say with the one and done rule, they'll say, well, it forces a kid to go to college. I abhor the one and done rule. It's antithetical to what college is all about, and it forces a player to go to college. And then you say, well, why can't we compensate these players beyond a scholarship? We should be giving them more money since we're making billions of dollars. And then he says, well, nobody's forcing them to go to college. Well, are they being forced or not? Like, why are we looking at it that way? If we think school is so great, and we do, we think school is a good thing. Maturing in school is a good thing. Being on a college campus is a good thing. Going to botany class is a good thing. So why aren't we welcoming them to do that? We're not telling anybody else when they make money, nope, get out of here, you're a dirty professional, you don't care about school anymore. We're only doing that with athletes. We let hockey players come back after they've been drafted. We let baseball players come back after they've been drafted, but not those basketball players because they're the ones making us all the money. That's different. You have to have a consequence if you want to go pro. The other ones, hockey players and baseball players, come on back. School's a great thing. Come on.
Yeah, football
doesn't make any sense.
Football, they won't let them back in either. I mean, football, if you have to declare in January, that's the end of that.
Yeah, but at least football, the NFL helps them out by sort of putting a barrier up where they can't get in before their junior year is over. And,
right.
People think that that's because, they'd get killed if they went up there and it's player safety. It has nothing to do with that. It's all business. And the reason it's a junior instead of a senior like it used to be was because of the USFL back in the mid-1980s. The USFL came in, they were drafting juniors, and the NFL said, boy, we better draft juniors or we're going to be at a competitive disadvantage in the marketplace. It's not principle, it's business.
Jay Bilas joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's talk about Simmons a little bit more. How good do you think he can be?
I think he can be great. I think he can be, perennial NBA All-Star. They don't make him like him very often, Rich. You've seen him. He's got a skill set that you just don't see. He can handle it like a guard. He's a great passer. I mean, think of it this way. The guy played 1 year of college, and granted, his team didn't perform the way a lot of people wanted. But in his 1 year of college, he scored more points than John Wall. He rebounded better than Kevin Love, and he assisted better than Steph Curry. And that's pretty good. And to have that all in a 6'10" package that handles like a point guard and passes like LeBron or Magic or all that stuff. Now, I'm not saying he's as good as them, but his passing ability is in that realm. It's ridiculous how good this kid is. And when he starts shooting it, and he will shoot it because his mechanics aren't broken. I'm not saying he's going to be Klay Thompson or Steph Curry shooting it, but he's going to be able to make shots. He makes free throws and all that stuff. He'll be fine there. You're looking at a player who is, in my judgment, the best in this draft, and it's not a discussion to me. The only thing Brandon Ingram does better is shoot it. Everything else, Ben Simmons is better.
And so who is the foreign-born player that could be this year's Porzingis?
Well, probably Dragan Bender from Croatia, but there are a number of guys that are good. It's just going to take them a while. The one that surprised me a little bit, as high as he went, was Thon Maker from Australia. He's basically a high school kid, 18 years old. Well, there's a debate as to how old he is, but he's supposed to be 18 years old. To me, a lot of people said the draft starts at 3. But the top 8 prospects, I think, were pretty much pegged. Not necessarily the order, but I think everybody knew who the 8 were. I think the draft started at 9 when Jakob Poeltl was drafted by Toronto. And then you had Thon Maker and Sabonis and Taurean Prince. I had him rated at the end of the first round, and he goes 12th or 13th. I think Atlanta grabbed him. I think it was 12th. And then you had a few guys whose names you couldn't pronounce. But that's when the draft started, and there were a whole bunch of surprises, and there were a whole bunch of guys sitting in the green room longer than even the NBA expected, or they wouldn't have invited them into the green room. They had information that Skal Labissiere and Deontay Davis would be drafted earlier.
Are you on Twitter during the draft, Jay?
No, I don't. And I heard some of the discussion. I have heard about Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting out all the draft picks. And I don't have any problem with all that stuff. I just don't want to know it. I want to be reacting to what you see real time. And I do think there's a good discussion to have. And it's not just an ESPN or an NFL Network discussion, but just TV as to whether that stuff's incorporated. Like maybe the screen should look like CNBC or something with all the information all over the place, and just acknowledge that this stuff is out there, because it is, and the teams are leaking it. And I don't know, because every once in a while you'll get a text message or something saying, hey, this guy's on the move, or he was drafted for us, or something like that. So I on rare occasion I'll get something like that. It's not very often. And you try not to react to that kind of thing, because I get text messages during the draft. And usually from my wife saying, your tie is crooked, or why did you wear that? Or, you got spittle on your mouth. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Jay, that is really confusing to me, to the viewers, that you don't know if somebody's getting drafted. Should you be excited because, is this for me? Is this for another team? And they don't announce the trades. They announce the trades, but they don't officially announce the trades. And so some kid's coming up from going to Utah, but no, he's really a Brooklyn Net. You have no idea. Or you have no idea if it's sort of like watching a football play. You have no idea if the play is going to stand, because there could be a flag on the play. It could be a trade on the play. It's very confusing. It
is, and the NFL probably does it better than the NBA in that regard. The NBA doesn't make very many mistakes, and there's probably a business reason for it that I'm not aware of. Mm-hmm. It doesn't bother me, because I'm thinking about so many other things. And I don't mind the fact that if somebody's watching the draft at home and they're following Wojnarowski's feed and they know who the pick is, and I'm up there speculating that it's somebody, here's what they should do, or here's what they could do, and I'm horribly wrong, I'm cool with that. I don't have any problem with that. Because, I'm basically going off of like a best available list. I rank the players as to how good I think they are, without regard to where they're going to be drafted. So if Michael Wilbon or Jalen Rose turns to me and says, well, they need a shooter, and I'll go, well, here are the best shooters I've got. So here's what I would do. That's cool. I don't have any problem with that. It's kind of fun that way. And I have lost, you're probably the same way after all these years. I have lost all shame in being wrong on these things.
Me too, Jay. Mayoc's the same way. That's the way we approach it on the NFL Network for the NFL draft, and more power to you for having an attitude like that. Before I let you go, Jay, with Kyrie Irving performing as he did in the NBA Finals, it sparked a debate here on this show as to who's the best player in the NBA in history to come out of Duke. And I've said that what Irving did in these NBA Finals puts him in that conversation. Who would you say is the best NBA player from Duke of all time?
Taking myself out of it, of course.
Of course, Jay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I would say I would still go with Grant Hill. Grant Hill was injured his 7th year or so, 8th year, something like that. His first 6 or 7 years, whatever the timing was, he was basically Sandy Koufax in basketball. There were probably 4 or 5 guys, I can't remember how many, but it was like Larry Bird, LeBron, Magic, and Michael Jordan, stuff like that had put up the kind of numbers he did across the board. They were Hall of Fame worthy for that period. And then he, but he was with the Pistons, but when he got hurt and he wound up having an 18-year career, whatever it was, I think Grant Hill is the most talented player and the best player that Duke's ever put out. And I can tell you they've never put out a better guy. But as good as Kyrie is, and he's remarkably good, and seems like the players are getting better and better, I still haven't seen anybody I think's better than Grant.
Jay, thanks for the time. Great job last night. Really enjoyed watching it. You're awesome at what you do.
Always a pleasure, and happy 60th.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.